Hello, beautiful people. I am J.W. Bella, teacher, poet, author, and I am so glad that you are here for the first time to sign my book here on the Power Play Radio Network. A little background about me. I have been writing, I have been in love with writing since the seventh grade. My very first piece of writing was actually a poem called A Sidewalk. I think it was about a broken sidewalk somewhere in my neighborhood. Who knows? And ever since then, I've pretty much had a very, 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 very almost bad infatuation with writing and with words and creativity and society. So I really do appreciate the chance that you all have to be able to witness other people who have the same type of love as me for writing basically be on my show, and I get to talk to them and have a little fun every once in a while. I have been teaching middle and high school for over 10 years. Actually, I made 10 years this year. And I recently published my first book, The Slip Under My Church Dress, which I will give you more information about later on. And I do want to thank Power Play Radio Network for this awesome opportunity. I pray that I have so much fun doing this along with some other people. So my show is basically for lovers of words and creativity and society and the way they impact society through writing. So a lot of times you're going to see authors, you will see publishers, you will see editors, you will see bookstore owners, pretty much anyone that I can find that has a love for writing like me and to be able to help other people write as well. I will have them on here. And the reason I do that is kind of a quote by Ray Bradbury. He says, "You must stay drunk on writing so reality cannot destroy you." And you'd be amazed how many people will be destroyed by that. So, where will I be? It is MLK weekend is coming up on January 20th, and so I will be with my beautiful Sights Poetry Club of Ranchview High School. We are actually going to be donating clothes and books to the Austin Street Shelter, and you can see the address right here on your screen. It is a part of the Young DFW Writers Day of Service that is in partnership with AmeriCorps, and we'll be there around 10 a.m. ish. It is my day off from teaching, so I'm gonna try to be there on time. We'll see. But it will be on January 20th, 2020, around 10 a.m. So, coming up next, we have author Arketa Williams, who is the author of the book A Center Circle. We're going to be talking to her more about her book and her writing process and what she did in order to become a publisher. So I am J.W. Bella, and you are watching Sign My Book on the Power Play Radio Network, radio from a TV point of view. We'll be back. Welcome back, writing family. This is Sign My Book with J.W. Bella here on the Power Play Radio Network. And before I get into my first interview, if you would like to be a part of the SMB family, there are actually several ways that you can do that. So one way is that you can call in to 972-860-8863. Another way is that you can go on Facebook to the Power Play Radio Network Facebook page, or you can go to my JW Bella Writes Facebook page. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please join in on this conversation that we're going to have with our first guest. And our first guest is a poet. She is an author. She is also an entrepreneur. She has been writing for over 22 years. That's a lot of words, y'all. I'm telling y'all. She has published over 5 books. Some of those books including No More Tears and Fits of Rage. And she's the author of A Center Circle, which we're going to be talking about today. And her name is Miss Arketa Williams. How are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I'm great. How are you today?
I am good. Nervous?
Yes.
It's okay. I was the same exact way. Just gotta learn how to breathe through it and whatnot. And hopefully some of my questions will actually kind of make it easier for you to be able to feel more comfortable and whatnot. And the first question...
I'm nervous, but I'm good.
Oh, you'll be all right. So the first question I have is, how does writing help you?
For me, writing is a second form of therapy.
Okay.
Writing was my voice when I didn't have one. Mm-hmm. And it has allowed me to put words to things that I thought I would never be able to speak out loud.
Right.
And so writing became my passion because it was where my freedom was when I felt trapped and confined by life.
Yep. And sometimes life doesn't know how to exactly listen. So you got to find somewhere in order to be able to put that. Also, writing is free and therapy is not. So I fully understand. I don't blame you on that.
Yeah, but you get to a point. Now I'm gonna defend therapy for a second because you get to a point where you need some extra assistance.
This I agree with. I do not object to that.
Sometimes you need a voice outside of your own to bring reason.
Well, that actually brings me to my next question, because I kind of wanted to know, why do you think it was important for you to share your writing with other people?
Because my writing, a lot of the times, is different. I write what people will tell you is not supposed to be said.
Okay.
And so once I learned that my voice was valid, mm-hmm. Then it became a point where I could just speak and share. And it created a platform to where people who were restricted,
right,
or felt like they couldn't, they gained that confidence because they read something that I wrote, and it gave them that confidence to speak their truth and stand in their transparency and be okay with their stories.
So it's kind of like they didn't feel like they were alone in whatever it is that they were going through.
And most of the time we're not, even though we don't know it in the moment.
Facts.
Most of the time we aren't alone. There is somebody somewhere that has gone through what you've been through. You just may not have encountered them at that stage in your journey yet.
Right.
And so that's where I come in, and my platform is finding the light in the midst of the darkness. Mm-hmm. And it's showing people that it doesn't matter where you've been. 9 times out of 10, I've either been through it, I can relate to it, or I can understand it. Okay. And so because of that, I'm able to help people in places that maybe someone couldn't reach them before because they didn't get it.
Right. And sometimes you need that different perspective in order for you to be able to feel comfortable with the fact that, yes, I've been through this tumultuous experience, but I'm not the only person who's been through it. Somebody else has actually dealt with that type of issue.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense. So when you said that you have writing that is not popular, let's say it like that, how do you deal with the criticism of your writing?
I haven't always dealt with the criticism.
Okay.
I'm better at it now. When it first started, like when I first released The Center Circle, it hurt my feelings.
Okay.
but you can't stay hurt because everybody is going to have an opinion about what you do, especially those that are trapped in a box, and then you're the one that's trying to break free and let your wings just fly, you know. And so because of that, it wasn't a place for me where I felt comfortable with or even knew how to deal with the criticism.
Right.
I thank God for my circle because I have a circle of people around me who help me be confident in my truth and in my transparency. And now the criticisms doesn't bother me because they're going to come. Right. And when I'm coaching other people, that's one of the first things I tell them. When you choose to write about your story, you have to know that the criticisms are going to come, and you have to be okay with what is being said to you. You also have to know that you have to shift it like a grain of salt. You don't have to digest everything that's thrown at you.
Right.
You know, sometimes you might have to curve it and keep on moving.
Right.
You know, everybody's opinions is not for you. It's just what they think. And they're entitled to that. But you don't have to agree with it.
Right. And in this society, it's really hard for people to understand that just because you say something that may be something that I feel disrespected by or I feel hurt by, it doesn't mean that your opinion is invalid. It just means that that's how you feel. So it's okay for you to feel that way, but I don't have to take in what it is that you say.
And sometimes they're reacting based off of what they've been taught.
There it is.
And what you've been taught may not be right, but it's all that you know.
Right.
And you aren't willing to think outside of what you are accustomed to, or what you know, grandmama and them told you,
right?
And now because that's what they said, that's the law, and this is how it is,
right?
And you can't think any other way because it goes against what grandmama said,
right? And that actually leads into a center circle. So if you have not read this book, oh my goodness, I like the fact that you said that, you know, it's what your grandmother and stuff told you, because when you talk about this book actually has a lot to do with the church. And you know, the church is one of those very, very, very traditional holier than thou, hold my mule while I shout type of places. And so can you explain to people what was basically the message of your book?
With the center circle, you know, I know a lot of people get caught up in the drama of it, but there was so much more than just the drama. Yes, the drama happened, but at the time that a center circle was happening, it was, my mother had passed away. Okay. And I was told that in order to be with her, in order to find her, she had went to be with Jesus, and I needed to find him in order to get to her. And I knew that in order to find him, I had to go to the church.
Right.
And so that was the start of the journey. I needed to find him to meet her. I didn't know at the time that I was going to encounter everything but Jesus.
Yep.
And a lot of the time that's how it goes. But in hindsight, looking back, one of the biggest things I learned was you can't base your relationship with him based off of the circumstances of everything going on around you. Because the devil will go to church just like the Christians will.
Yep.
And a lot of the time we get caught up in what's happening.
Right.
Versus the relationship.
Right.
And because of what's happening, now we're walking away. We don't want to have anything to do with God. We don't want to have anything to do with church. We don't want to have anything to do with anything spiritual or religious because we're hurt.
Right.
Or we think that this is all that there is.
Yep.
And I was that person too until I met some for real Christians. And the for real Christians made a difference in not just my perception, but in my walk.
Right.
And it taught me to build that relationship and not just be a person who attends.
Right.
Because sometimes we think that we're doing all of the right thing. Everybody in that book, well, I ain't gonna say everybody, a lot of the people in the book thought that they were doing the right thing. They didn't realize the damage that they were causing,
right,
based off of the things that they were doing,
right, which goes back to the whole thing about if you listen to what your grandmother said or whoever it is that said something, because you haven't experienced anything else, you don't know any better.
So are you like one of the characters in a book?
Oh,
100%. Or do you have a true relationship?
I think for me, one of the reasons why I connected so well with it was because I was a PGK. I'm a preacher's grandkid, and so I had a family that basically dedicated themselves to looking a certain way, but then tailoring things around to where we don't want to tell people that we have sex outside of, you know, marriage, we got kids all over the place, we drink, we do all the rest of these things. And so one of the things that I related to, especially with the main character, Karen, yes, I got it right. Okay, with the main character of Karen was that she went into all these things with good intentions.
She did.
Everything else that just came back was just messed up.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do anything about that. And so she had to basically adjust or try to adjust on the fly to what was going on. She couldn't do that well.
I think she handled it in the beginning. She was adjusting. Yeah. But as time went on, as she continued to grow and just grow up in life,
right?
Not even in church, but just in life, no, she couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, and that
there came a time where enough was enough.
Right. And there was a quote in the book. I think we have that quote, if I remember correctly. So it says, "Since I couldn't find my knight in shining armor to rescue me, I let liquor do it instead. And I didn't need liquid courage, I needed strength. I felt like the church crippled me, but I kept being drawn back to it, looking to them to fix my broken pieces so that I could find my way back to God." And so if I'm a Christian and I see that, and you know, Christians supposedly don't do liquor, quote unquote, why should I continue to read this book knowing you're saying things about this with liquor and church and whatnot?
To answer it honestly, everything is not for everybody. And there are a number of Christians that I know who are perfectly good in their walk who will never pick up my book because they can't understand it. They can't relate to that side of the church. Theirs have been unicorns, sunshine, and rainbows their entire life, and
that scared me.
And they don't know anything different. They don't want to know anything different, and they're not willing to hear about anything different.
That is scary.
So in that sense, no, this book isn't for you. Mm-hmm. But there are others who are stuck in their spiritual walk, and they can't grow and they can't go any further because of what they've experienced, right. And they need to connect with somebody who can encourage them beyond their broken place that they're stuck in.
Right.
You know, I'll be the first to tell a Christian person a Center Circle is about the church, but it's not a Christian book.
Okay.
By no means is it a Christian book. I don't want to give off the perception.
It's not.
And have all these church folks running out here.
Don't read this at church. Do not read this at church.
You can read during Bible study. It's not a devotional. It's nothing like that. But it's real in what it is. Mm-hmm. It's real in the situations that took place in the church.
Right.
And it's real in the brokenness and the pain of what Karen felt. Okay. Because as a teacher, as a minister, as anybody, you can't save everybody sitting on a pew next to you.
True.
The ones that need you to talk to them are the ones who are still stuck outside, and they're too terrified based off of what they've experienced to come in. Exactly. If you don't know what they've been through, or you aren't willing to open your mind to understand the place that they're in, how can you help them?
Right.
How can you help them find God? How can you help them get beyond where they are in their life if you're not willing to understand what they've been through? Yep. I'm not the only Karen in this book.
Yep.
There are hundreds of other Karens that I've encountered since I wrote this book. And they all want to know, well, why did you keep going back? How could you keep going back? How could you be who you are now? Because who I am now is not who I was then.
Yep.
By no means. I'm a completely different person from when Karen existed. You know, and so it's not for everybody.
Right.
But are you willing to be open-minded enough to understand where she is? And if you met Karen right now today, can you minister to her? Can you help her heal? Are you willing to be open enough to hear her pain?
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, because my next question was, I'm basically a sinner. You know, I did all my dirt and everything else. Do you think me reading this book would convert me to being a Christian?
No.
Okay. Why?
No, a sinner circle will not convert you at all to being a Christian.
Oh.
Because a sinner circle is written in truth and transparency.
Right.
It's not written for conversion.
Okay.
It would have to be written as a Christian book.
Right.
In order to be written to convert you
That makes sense.
over into being a Christian.
Right.
A sinner circle is just the flip side of the church.
Right.
It's the side that is not discussed, but that happens. It's the side it's the best kept secret. It's what you're not supposed to say.
Right.
You acknowledge it, but you take a blind eye to it.
Right.
And and as a Christian, how many times, because we're focused on me, my four, and no more, do we take a blind eye to things that's happening?
Right.
Not realizing that at the end of the day, the blood of that soul that's being sacrificed is not just on the one that's doing it, but it's on the one that could have stepped in and saved them from experiencing it, but chose to look the other way.
Right.
It's not for conversion.
That makes sense. I fully understand that.
It's just facing the reality of life, the things that happen.
But I do think it would be a good book for, I know it's going to sound weird, but I think honestly, if there would be book clubs in church that would do it, if they wouldn't read it in church, maybe Starbucks or something like that. Don't read it in church. But I think if they would take the time to discuss a lot of the stuff that Karen deals with, especially with the pastor inside of this book, I think it would be life-changing, and it would force people in the church to think of, how can I do things outside of these four walls? How can I, help other people, not just being, this foot-stomping person all the time, but I'm also making sure that I'm helping someone else, through giving my testimony and what I've been through and everything. We are going to come back and talk more about you and your experience, but we are going to take a break. We will be back with Arketa Williams. This is the Sign My Book radio show. I am JW Bella, and we are on the Power Play Radio Network, radio from a TV point of view. We'll be back, y'all. Hi, welcome back, writing family. I am JW Bella, and I am so happy that you are here to sign my book on the Power Play Radio Network. We are here with Arketa Williams, author of A Center Circle. If you have not already, it is available pretty much everywhere. And I want to kind of talk to you about now from I guess a publishing perspective, because you know there are people who are watching that want to publish their own book. And so before I get to that, I do want to ask, what is your go-to genre of writing? Is there a specific one, or do you have multiple ones?
I don't have a go-to genre of writing. It's whatever my mood is. Or what goal am I trying to accomplish at the moment?
Right.
It may be a business book. It may be for entertainment, just some poetry or a fiction novel. It just depends on
whatever it is that you're feeling.
Yeah.
Now, most of the books that you've published, what have they been?
Most of the books that I've published have been motivation, inspiration, urban fiction, or poetry.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a little bit of
it's
a little bit of everything.
Children's books. We have several children's books out right now.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, whenever you published A Center Circle, did you self-publish or did you use a known publisher?
Both.
Oh. Wait, what? wait, what?
The first time I published A Center Circle,
okay,
I went with another publisher.
Okay. How did that go? Okay, I'm assuming not well.
It was a very unique experience.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it.
Thank you.
Writers always know how to say things
you.
in a very beautiful way. You gotta give that to us.
I wouldn't do it again.
Fair enough.
But my first experience, it started out great.
Okay.
Over time, it went downhill.
Okay.
Especially once they changed management.
Okay.
Then the level of customer service began to suck.
Okay.
But I was already accustomed to a certain level, and then I didn't like that I didn't get any royalties.
Ooh, yeah, that's a problem.
I sold $1,500 worth of books, and I saw less than $70. So it was a very unique experience, but I learned a lot from them.
What were some of the lessons that you learned to kind of help other people?
Everything that I do within my business is all lessons.
That's fair enough.
It's all lessons that I learned from them.
That is fair enough.
They taught me everything I should not do.
All right.
And I don't.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Now, is there a difference between whenever you write a novel, like A Center Circle, and whenever you write your poetry?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a completely different mindset. It's a different mood. It's a different... See, with my poetry, I can be whoever, do whatever, and write whatever, and it all goes together. You know, it's whatever my mood is, that's what plays out on my paper. But it's also a place where I can creatively share and make up words and do different things with my poetry that I wouldn't necessarily do with my novels.
Okay. So it's more of a
writing
creative...
A center, it's a creative difference.
Yeah, a creative zone. Yeah.
In writing A Center Circle, I had two reverends that constantly prayed and checked on me. I had a whole therapist at my side who was helping me get through the triggers and the anxiety attacks and the panic attacks and everything else that was happening, because in order to write A Center Circle, I had to relive a lot of the experiences, and I had to bring up things that I had blocked out for a reason. Okay. So it was a different place. It was a different atmosphere that needed to be created in order for this book to be birthed. There was a healing that needed to take place as I was writing the book, versus more of my poetry is becoming more diverse, and I'm not writing, initially I was writing from a place of pain, trying to be free. Okay. Now I'm writing from a place of freedom. some of it will contain things that I've never said before, but then some of it will just be me continuously writing.
So what advice would you give to people who want to publish their stuff or want to become writers, but maybe they have some type of fear or anxiety that comes with that?
Have a great support system. And if you don't have a support system, call me. I'll help you. I'll help support you in the process.
For the record, she's really good at that. I do want to point that out. She really is good at that. I will admit that.
Everybody needs somebody to be their cheerleader. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand the importance of it until I got it. Oh. You need to know and be confident in what you're doing before you do it, especially if you're telling your truth. Right. You know, people will continuously make you feel like you're wrong. And one of the things I had to tell somebody is, you may not like my story, but I didn't like what you did to me.
There it is.
And if you hadn't have done it, then I wouldn't have an opportunity to tell it.
Right.
So, with that being said,
karma sucks. I just want to point that out. Like, you got to remember how you treat people and how that goes. And please note that with most writers, what we experience is what we put on paper. So if you don't want to be on paper, you may want to avoid us. It's not going to work in your favor. Yeah, that's my lesson for the day. The more you know, cue the star that flies over. Just pointing that out. So my second to last question, I asked this to all my guests. It is because the name of the show is Sign My Book. If you could have a signed copy of a book from somebody, dead or alive, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
It would be a toss-up between Gabrielle Union and Taraji.
Wow.
Henson. Both of them have really amazing books. I love Gabrielle's book because of her transparency and her rawness in her story. She is another one who told a lot of her truths, and when you're reading her book, you will be like, oh, you're not supposed to, it's one of those people that people did with us in a circle. You're not supposed to say that. Mm-hmm. But your truth is your truth, and you can't tell nobody what they can or cannot say when it comes to their truth. Mm-hmm. So I would love for her to sign my book.
Yay! You learned how to use the title of the thing. Woohoo!
You're not supposed to do that on the air.
I'm sorry, don't be surprised at what I do. I don't. These cameras don't mean a single thing when it comes to that. So, how can people purchase one of your books? It could be a Center Circle, your poetry,
or one of the other 8,
or 50 million. How can they do that?
They can go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart, Books A Million. Everywhere books are sold, you can find a copy of one of my books, including a Center Circle.
Seems like you have a really awesome publishing company. I guess we'll get to that point later.
Absolutely. My publishing company is amazing.
I will explain. There's an inside joke that I'll explain it later. I promise. I do want to thank you, however, for your presence. I do thank you for your truth, because A Center Circle is a book that people need to experience, even if it means you gotta sit down every once in a while and not read it to get your bearings and whatnot. But it is a book that I think, as Christians, it really does open our eyes to make us realize that what we do to people does have an effect.
It does.
And whenever you don't consider that, whenever you're making choices and you're making decisions, that is a really big thing, especially whenever you're supposed to be representing something that's greater than you.
Absolutely.
And so I do appreciate you taking the time out to be able to share that with us. Coming up next, we are going to have Miss Tara Humphrey, and she's going to be sharing in the poetic pen with us. So stay tuned. We'll be back. I am J.W. Bella, and you are watching Sign My Book on the Power Play Radio Network, radio from a TV point of view.
Have a great evening, everyone.
See you soon. Mm-hmm.